G'day folks, it's Rob here and I've got a bit of an exciting clip this week. Well, I think it's exciting. I'm harvesting our first load of coffee seeds or coffee beans from our small little dwarf container grown coffee tree here. It's been growing in a container for a couple of years, so I'm pretty chuffed that we're finally getting some sort of a yield from it. I'm also going to run through a couple of pointers that you folks might want to use to grow your own coffee in containers or maybe even outside depending on your climate. Before we get started though, I really do need to thank you marvellous folks who have subscribed out there and keep coming back week after week to check out the clips. Thank you very much. If you haven't subscribed already, all you need to do is tap on that little subscribe button down there and then do the same to the bell icon when it appears, and you'll be sent notifications whenever we upload clips to our Aquaponics and Backyard Farm YouTube channel. You can come along and say g'day in the comment section down below. Now back to the coffee. So this little coffee bush here is a dwarf katui, which is a member of the Arabica family of coffee. Coffee, if you're not aware, is a subtropical or tropical understory tree that originates from northern Africa. You coffee connoisseurs out there probably already know this, but I thought I'd throw it in. The really good commercial coffee is grown above 1,000 meters above sea level, which is around about 2,300 feet, in a temperature range between 15 and 24 degrees Celsius. So that just gives it a nice flavor and apparently nice after notes and tones as well. I'm really not that much of a coffee nerd. I just really like a nice strong cup of black coffee. So you don't really need to live above 1,000 meters though, folks. I've got a mate in northern New South Wales who doesn't live too far from the coast at a low altitude. Dave, g'day mate, and he has grown some awesome coffee. He's processed it, I've tasted it, and it tasted fantastic to me. He's actually already given me some pointers on how I'm going to prepare these seeds before we roast them. Now as for climate, warm temperate to tropical is pretty much all your best bet for growing these guys because they don't like dropping below 5 degrees Celsius. So if you're in the States, that's zone 10 or above. You can grow them down to zone 7. You just got to keep in mind that they do need to be kept warm through the cooler months. So whether you bring them inside or maybe slide them into a climate controlled greenhouse to look after them and then drag them back out through summer. If you are looking at bringing your coffee tree outside after winter, I would recommend that you do it slowly. Give it a couple of hours in the sunlight at a time because, as I said, the leaves are sensitive. So if you are in a hot temperate to tropical location, it is a good idea to mimic their natural environment and grow them as an understory tree and just make sure they get the nice warm morning sun, but they're shielded from the hot afternoon sun. That's pretty much all what the commercial growers do. They have them growing under large canopy trees, or they might dot some bananas or plantains in amongst the field of the coffee itself, and that just gives it a little bit of extra shelter. So coffee is generally grown from seed, but it can be grown from cutting. I might do another clip on actually propagating coffee at a later date. So coffee trees actually have a fairly shallow taproot. It's around about 40 to 60 centimeters, which is just under 1.5 to 2 foot in depth for the larger trees, and these small dwarf trees have a smaller taproot again, so that makes them ideal for growing in containers, I think. So this little tree here started off as an advanced tube stock seedling in January of 2016. We popped it into a 30-litre root pouch or 7-gallon root pouch with a very rich soil mix. It was 3 parts potting mix, 1 part compost, and it had a slow release fertilizer pellet in there, as well as I think I popped in a small handful of the rock dust minerals. Now they are a fairly heavy feeder. They do like a good dose of NPK, that's nitrogen, phosphorus and potassium, and they also do require a fair amount of zinc, iron, magnesium and boron from what I've been reading. So you might be able to make out on ours we have a little bit of an iron deficiency at the moment that's just come on since it's been fruiting, so that's something I need to take care of soon with a bit of a foliar and soil feed with some chelated iron. So that's something I'll get to after I harvest these guys. It took about 18 months after it was planted in that smaller pouch to grow to about 60 centimeters or 2 foot in height, and from there I decided to move it up a couple of pouch sizes and I popped it into a 56 litre or 15-gallon root pouch. I was actually pleasantly surprised once I took it out of the smaller root pouch that there were no major issues with root boundness that you would see in a plastic pot, especially considering they've got such an active surface feeding root system. So I was very pleased with that. So when it comes to watering the plant through summer, I like to give it a lot of water. I fill up the tray regularly, just let it dry out for a day or so every now and then. I've found it's a fairly thirsty plant when it's putting on a lot of growth and a lot of new branches and fruit and flowers. Through winter though, it is a good idea, like other tropical fruits like mangosteens, to let the soil dry out a bit and give them what they call a bit of water stress. That basically makes them think that they're going through the cooler dormancy period. Come the end of winter, start of spring, ramp up the watering again. They sense that, hang on, it's time to flourish. They put a lot of energy into new growth and also setting those flowers and fruits on all the new timber that it's created during that flush. Talking of flowers, they generally take around about 2 to 6 years to flower if you've germinated them from seeds. So it's not something where you're going to get a quick turnover from seedling to your first drink of coffee from your tree. What we did is, as I said, bought the little tube stock and gave us a little bit of a head start. And it's only been about 2.5 years since we've popped this one out to getting our first decent harvest. We did get one the first year, but it was like 5 berries, so not really enough for a cup of coffee. These Arabica trees, by the way, are self-pollinating trees, which means they have perfect flowers. They've got male and female parts in the same flower. I think it's the Robusta family that you need more than one tree, so you can get the pollen moving around between different flowers and get a better yield. But these one, guys, you can grow them singly by themselves. So I'll stop rabbiting on, folks, and we'll get into the harvest side of the clip. I'm only harvesting the ones that are right to go today, and I'll be drying them out and storing them. And once we harvest all the beans off the plant, I'll have a bit of a clip for you to check out on how we've harvested, processed and then roasted the coffee, and yeah, I'll have a bit of a taste test on camera and let you know what I think it tastes like. So here's our little tree. As you can see, she's got a fair bit of height on her. She's put on about a foot's worth of growth, but the side branches have come right out through this season. So a lot of new green wood here that will have flowers set on for next season. And yeah, you can see the chlorosis between the veins there from the iron deficiency. So yeah, I definitely do need to treat this. Just quickly, I thought I'd give you a bit of a rundown too on pests before we get into the harvest. Grasshoppers, they love them. We've had some thrips that were congregating up the top here at the growth point, but we've got them under control. But we do have some ants farming other critters down here. I don't know if they're mealybugs or whatever. I think they are mealybugs. So yeah, they're just getting in between the berries and making little nests. You can see some more of them up the back there as well. So I generally just come along and just disturb them and yeah, annoy them. And yeah, as you can see, we have a load of berries that need to come off. Now these berries are in different stages of maturity. These greener ones I'll be leaving on, and these dark red ones I'll be taking off. The reason I've left them on longer is I've seen a lot of people harvest their backyard coffee when they're nice and red and hard like this, or maybe even orange like that, and they're very hard to get the actual parchment covered seed out of the fruit. So I've decided to leave them go a little bit longer, let them develop. So when we pick them out, I'll just grab my little bowl. All we have to do to get the seeds out of these guys is give them a bit of a squeeze. Actually, I'll squeeze it the other way. Give them a bit of a squeeze and the seed just pops out. That's pretty much why I've chosen to let them get a little bit riper on the tree. I don't know if you can make it out there too, but they're sort of covered in a little bit of a slimy coating. A lot of people will ferment that off. They'll pop all these beans in a bowl together, pop in some water, like you'd ferment off your tomato seeds if you were saving them, and then that just removes this this sort of sticky layer. I'm not going to bother about that with all of them. Half of them I'm going to leave this layer on, and the other half I will ferment off. I'm just doing a bit of an experiment after Dave told me that he doesn't bother about fermenting them. So as far as I know, there's no right or wrong way to do these. Pretty much we'll just twist them off, trying not to knock off any of the green ones. Now, I think it might be a little bit of a slow going, definitely not a professional, that's for sure. Definitely don't think I'd make my quota if I was working on a plantation. A couple hiding down the back here, and I think I'm pretty much all done. And that's pretty much all it, just a small little bowl of coffee berries. Just to show you, I have left a couple like these ones here. They just look a little bit too young. Oh, that one there, yeah, I missed him underneath. That one can probably come off. A little bit green towards the top, but squishy all the same. So these ones I'm just going to leave on. And as you can see, we've got a load of other green berries down in there. There's another dark one I've missed in the center there. So yeah, I think I've probably taken off about just over half of the berries that were on the bush. So we should end up with at least a cup or two of coffee out of this lot. Like I've mentioned before, I'm not going to go through and show you how I'm processing these guys now. I'll just be squeezing the seeds out, and I'll probably just let these guys dry with their little sticky layer on them. The second batch, these guys here, I'll progressively harvest them, and those guys I'll just ferment off in little batches, and I'll show you how we're going to remove the parchment and all the roasting in another clip. One thing I do want to do now though is actually taste test one of these berries, if I can find one that's nice and red. Now I've been told that they're slightly sweet but mainly bitter. Yeah, so here we go. Wow, that is sweet. And this one here actually gave us 2 seeds, so good sized ones too. I would say that flavour is a cross between a plum and a capsicum, or a sweet pepper, sorry. So there you go. Not bad at all. I'll try another one. So those little berries are actually very tasty, and I think I'm going to leave the majority of the ripe ones to do after dinner when Bianca gets home. A bit of an after meal snack. Just quickly before I go, a bit of spruiking. We've got a website, and on that website we sell a few bits and pieces like the root pouches you saw the coffee tree go into, also uniseals and venturis for aquaponics if you're here in Australia, and we also have an affiliate link to Aqua Gardening, one of Australia's premier aquaponics, hydroponics and pond suppliers. And we also have a link there for our Amazon influencer store for you folks over in the States. On the influencer page, I've got things listed like the root pouches, uniseals, other aquaponic testing equipment, and also the VeggiePod growing system that we use as well. So check them out if you're interested. I also need to thank the marvelous folks over on Patreon who are continuing to support us in more ways than they know. So thank you very much, folks. I have a list of our super contributors, the guys that go above and beyond, down in the description below. So it'd be great if you could go down and check out their websites and their Facebook groups and show them a bit of love. I'd really appreciate it. I will pretty much will leave it there though, and we'll pick up the coffee again once I finish processing it. I do hope your gardens are booming, and your aquaponic systems too if you have one, and I'll see you next clip. Cheers all, have a top one.